Hello and welcome to More Than a Game, a podcast about the A-League, Premier League and more. My name's Tommie C. We lose every week. You're nothing special. We lose every week. Arsenal fans sing as City score 5 unanswered goals. West Ham stay top of the pile, at least for now. Big Rom and Big Verge cancel each other out as Reece sees red. Jorge Mendes masterclass as Cristiano Ronaldo is manoeuvred back to Manchester. And Sheriff Tiraspol is in town, so you better watch yourself as the Champions League group stage draw throws up a group of death and also a group of life. My name's Tommie C, as I said, and joining me this week on the pod, the other half of a West Ham sandwich this week is Scotty. Great to have you back. How are you this week?
I'm very good. So 30th birthday this week. It was nice to wake up to West Ham smashing Leicester on that day. So brilliant.
Here, mate. That's a pretty bloody fantastic birthday present. Colby, how does it feel to be in the West Ham sandwich this week?
Yeah, it feels a bit weird. I've got to say, Tommie. And for those who are listening to the podcast version of this show today, Tommie and Scotty have both got the same West Ham kit on. So I really feel like I'm in the middle. There's two identical slices of bread either side of me, as it were.
Just we need to really ham it up this episode. Dial up the pork products for you all. So hopefully it's a nice fat PH episode for you all. So all right, boys, let's get into some football though, shall we? Scotty, you want to take it away? Birthday boy, what was your moment of the week this week?
When you were asked about, when I saw the run sheet, I was like, surely it's Ronaldo. But I think we're going to get onto that later. There was a great Twitter moment where it turned out that Wigan had given a minutes of applause before the match, or minutes silence, to a duck named Keith. It was going around in the fan group. Keith passed away. He was a dedicated fan, got loads of movement, loads of traction. And up pops a picture of a duck in the pre-match thing. So if you just type in Keith Duck Wigan, that's there for your English Football League moment of the week.
That's fantastic. Even just Teeth the Duck is just that alone could just be a moment of the week. Colby, what about you, mate? What was your moment of the week?
Just a little one for me, Tommie. I'm pleased that the Socceroos and international football is going to be back. I know a lot of people, especially when we're talking Premier League, don't look forward to the international break that much. But I'm one of the few that do, and I'm pleased that we'll be getting to see the Roos back in action as they go on with their World Cup qualifiers. And I think they're all going to be shown on 10 Play or I don't know, one of the Channel 10 spin-offs, maybe the digital one, but they'll all be there available to see. So and I think the squad got announced today or yesterday, so it's pretty hot off the press too. So very very keen to see them back in action.
A little bit more about the Socceroos later on in the pod as well. All right, for me, a little bit of shithousery, sort of similar flavour to last week. My moment of the week was Antonio Rudiger. Not sure if anyone caught this just before Salah was about to take the penalty. Rudiger walks up to the penalty spot and absolutely lays his heel into the penalty spot to basically just create as big a divot as possible. And there was a couple of Liverpool players that did spot it. I think Robertson was the first to react, and he was straight over there, basically getting him out of the way. And it didn't seem to put Salah off. Obviously, Salah ended up going on to score, but not only that, Rudiger also ended up getting himself a yellow card for his troubles as well. So just you love to see it. All right, boys, into own goals now. Scotty, you want to take it away again? Over to you.
Yeah, for me, a personal one, just another thing to add to your sporting streaming services. I've now got Stan Sport because that's a thing, so that I can watch. An own goal. Yeah, just I was like, we get Stan now. I'll have a look through all the great things okay, that's not much on there. So I'm paying an inordinate amount to hope that West Ham get through the group stages and make it somewhat worthwhile, I suppose.
Mate, I can actually advocate big time for Stan as a platform. I think it's better than Netflix, actually, apart from probably the Netflix standalone content. But just me, I like to go out on a limb and make a big call like that. So
Wow, Tommy. I think this is the biggest call you've made in some weeks, but here we are.
Maybe we need to introduce that as a segment, like in the coming weeks. Is like what is the best show on the streaming platforms at the moment?
I just want someone to keep us accountable for all these big calls that you're making, Tommy. Like someone just needs to keep track of Tommy's big calls and let us know what they are, because I think there's a few of them out there. You've started the season hot.
It's Trump-esque, isn't it? Just the levels of bullshit that I'm throwing out there.
Well, you keep doing it and no one remembers the last one. They only remember the most recent one. It's fine. You just keep recycling them.
Exactly. And then you'll be off and away. As soon as one of them comes off, like you'll just be, the next.
See, I told you. I told you.
Yep.
All right, Colby. What about you for own goal this week?
Hard to go past Harry Kane this week, boys. That tweet he put out was just the biggest. Like that. I mean, when we're thinking of this segment, when we're thinking of what an own goal is in football terms, an off-field own goal, this should be like the textbook definition of what an off-field own goal is. Obviously, after his transfer to Manchester City fell through, allegedly over the sum of like £10 million or something, which is like pretty minuscule really. for Manchester City. But they held firm to their price for him, and Harry Kane was stuck at Spurs, and he puts out a message on Twitter which essentially says, like, it was incredible to see the reception from the Spurs fans. I've got all these messages of support. I will be staying at Tottenham this summer and will be 100% focused on helping the team to achieve success. I mean, take your pick. There's just so many own goals there, but like,
so disingenuous, wasn't it?
Yeah, after you've cooked the deal and you've missed training and you've carried on and there's been a big circus, just don't bullshit the fans. Like, just either be upfront and say, look, I wanted to leave, but I'm 100% committed to Tottenham. I love the club. Or don't say anything at all. But like, just don't bullshit them.
And I think that's like probably the best part about this is that like fans see straight through this in the era of social media and just like the amount of content that people push out. Everyone knows, every Spurs fan at least knows that Kane didn't want to be there. He wanted to be somewhere else, wanted to move on, and just. Really, just another. It was just the cherry on top of this whole situation, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh.
All right, for me, similar sort of flavor, I guess, to Harry Kane wanting to leave Spurs. For me, my own goal this week was Will Hughes. Not a player that has really been in the headlines much of the last, probably the last 12 months. He's been in the Championship with Watford and had a pretty decent season by all accounts. But he got to the end of this season, so a few months ago, when basically he's got 12 months left on his contract, and he told Watford he wouldn't be extending his deal. And you think, oh yeah, well, he's probably holding out to go to like a bigger club or something like that. Like while his stocks are at a high point. Yeah, Will Hughes, he held out for a new deal, didn't get one, and instead he's gone to Crystal Palace. So if there's sort of like an anti-Kane move where you hold out for like a big club to swoop in and pick you up, this is kind of like the opposite of that.
I thought you were going to say he went like down to the Championship or went over to like, I don't know, the Ukraine or I don't know, something a bit random. But I don't know, put some respect on Palace, Tommy. Come on.
Not after last night, mate. I'm really off Palace.
I mean, was it Mo Diarmi who said that he wanted to leave West Ham to challenge for trophies and then ended up at like Hull or something like this, and then Newcastle, and it was just like the Championship trophy was that was the one you really wanted. Like, okay, interesting, yeah.
Oh, just dumb move. Maybe you got a pay rise out of it, who knows? But it just seemed real weird for me to hold out for a new contract at a bigger club and end up going to Crystal Palace. Alrighty, that's moment of the week and on goal. But look, I think that we have to have a little bit of transfer chat before we get into any of the other news from the week. And the big fish of all big fish was the Ronaldo move to Manchester City. To Manchester United. That was probably the strangest thing about all of this. I don't think anyone really was that surprised that he's ended up going to Manchester United, but the pace at which it went from him going to City to Man United just completely had me doing that whole dizzy gif. Sal Talk Soccer asks, does Cristiano Ronaldo help Manchester United to win the league this season?
Two parts. Does he help Man United? Yes. Does he help them win the league? I don't think so. I don't think they're quite there. I mean, we'll get onto it later, but I think there's a couple of sides that are better than United.
Do they need Ronaldo to play it at 6 for them to win the league, basically?
I saw like what stops this team, and it was like Ronaldo up top, and then you had your wingers, Sancho, Pogba, and Fernandes, and then playing at 6 was hopes and dreams. And I was like, that's pretty much what United need. They need this mythical player who's going to just cover the defense, box to box, everything, to provide all that support. Yeah, I mean, players tend to move backwards in their career, down the pitch. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is Ronaldo. He went to United because City couldn't offer him that number 6 role. Maybe that was it the entire time.
It's Ronaldo doing a Rooney. Boys, on a serious note, though, like, what is the bar? Where is the bar of success for Cristiano Ronaldo in this? Like, does he want to score 20 goals, and doesn't matter like where United finish on the table? Is success a Premier League title? Is it a Champions League title? Where does it fit for you guys? Colby, you want to go first?
I think he's already hit success because isn't he going to be the highest paid player in the Premier League now? I mean, he's done everything in his career basically, and now he's just. I mean, I wouldn't say cashing in, but for a 37-year-old, I mean, I know it's Ronaldo, but man, if he really is going to be the highest paid player in the Premier League, like, what is going on?
Who would be the second most? Who previously would have been the highest paid player? Like Kane or Lukaku or
De Bruyne?
Probably. It might be Lukaku because he signed this year. I mean, I was thinking like Pogba's probably on a lot, but I don't know what it is. Who would be up there?
I guess Pogba is a good example of being the highest paid player doesn't necessarily mean you're the best player in the league.
But
just got the best agent.
Yeah, but I mean, like for Man United, commercially, this is they've avoided. Like for Man United, this is probably already a success, even if he's not particularly prolific or anything. Because if you've gone to City, not only is it bad because City now have someone they can just stick in the box and he scores all the headers, scores all the finishes, brilliant. But they suddenly have this Man United icon in that that sky blue shirt, and it's commercially a massive hit for United. But now they get to sell loads more Ronaldo merch. Like you probably get these half and half shirts of the different era Ronaldos now, and you'll get all of those things. I'm probably giving people ideas. But you'll get all of the merch and the commercial deals that come alongside it. It's Man United as a business of one here, whether Man United as a team win.
100% agree, Scotty. He's not there for the on-field stuff. Like, yeah, I mean, just purely by sticking him up the front and belting balls into him, he'll probably get 15 or 20 goals. But like, that's not really what he's there for. I totally agree. It's the merchandising, and it's the not being embarrassed by City. And it was a bit of a defensive play, if anything, by the sounds of it. Like, if it was looking like City was going to get him, so.
Is the biggest winner from this deal then Adidas above all?
Probably.
Boys, it looks like Cavani might be holding on to the number 7 jersey, not through any other reason other than the fact that he's already been registered with that number. And it looks like even if the league or Manchester United want to give Ronaldo the 7 number, that it's unlikely to come off. What number should Ronaldo get then? If
77, Tommie.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe is there how many goals he scored? Maybe is there an issue with how long the number can be? Like he has all of his Man United goals up to
637.
Put on I don't know, like what year would he have been born in? So 37. That'd make him put it 1984 or whatever the year was.
That's big 90s Serie A energy, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, boys. A final question on the topic of Ronaldo, and it's not really to do with Ronaldo. It's about, I guess, all the players that are affected by this move. I mentioned Cavani. Obviously, he's very affected by it. But Greenwood, Martial, and I guess he's not a player, but Ole are massively affected by this as well. Who's probably the biggest loser out of this move from a Manchester United perspective?
I mean, in terms of game time, probably going to be Martial. I mean, I think Greenwood may have been used sparingly anyway. He's had a few niggly injuries, and just probably trying to get him in the right place rather than just using him for minutes. Put him in the right situation is probably going to be key now for Ole. But Martial is, he's got Sancho to contend with as well now on those wider positions. He's not going to play up front with Cavani and Ronaldo in there. I mean, Greenwood was arguably better in that central role than he was as well. Yeah, he's probably just not going to get that time now.
The big takeaway from that Southampton match was that Martial was just shit. Like, I almost see him as being like fourth choice, either up front or out wide now, like with Rashford coming back as well. So wouldn't even be surprised if Martial is gone either this window or in January. But talking wages before, I know Martial is on some pretty stupid money. I think he's on at least 200 million a week, 200,000 a week. 200 million would be pretty silly, but alrighty, boys. We'll move on from Ronaldo though. One other big transfer, depending on who you ask, was Kurt Zuma's move from Chelsea to West Ham. West Ham obviously in need of a centre back. Didn't have a lot of depth there, but Kurt Zuma probably comes straight into the starting 11 for West Ham, I think. Good move, you think, Scotty?
Brilliant move. I mean, we're signing a player that has not just should improve the side in the short term, but say things don't stay as good as they are at the moment for West Ham, actually has resale value. This is a player that isn't going to fall off a cliff at the end of the season. Value wise, it's a genuinely good move all round. I mean, when you look at Craig Dawson, when he has his moments, he's very good, but his mobility now is really starting to tank. So I'm very excited for it. And with the Europa League, we needed more than 3 centre backs. So
big time. And it looks like I think it's Jules Condé. I think he's French as well. He's going to be replacing Kurt Zuma at Chelsea. Colby, who do you think have got the better deal out of this, out of Kurt Zuma or Condé, West Ham or Chelsea? And you may not have seen a whole heap of Condé playing for Sevilla.
Yeah, so, I can't say that I've seen a lot of Jules Condé play, but I know he's very highly rated, and Chelsea really were after him, and they were trying to move Zuma on so that they could accommodate that. But I mean, you know my views on Kurt Zuma, Tommie. I really rate him, and I think he'll do well at West Ham. Even if he is going to be the highest paid player at that club or something ridiculous. But I do think he improves West Ham, and to Scotty's point, he gives a bit of depth that was needed there as well. But I think Kurt Zouma is probably the biggest winner out of this if the reports are to be believed regarding his pay. Good on you, lad.
A little bit of Kurt Zuma trivia for you all. So Kurt Zuma is named after Kurt Sloan from a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie from '89, Kickboxer. So I think you'll enjoy that one. And apparently his middle name's Happy because his dad said he was going to be strong, so hence they named him after that Jean-Claude Van Damme fighter. And his mum said he was going to be happy, so they called him Kurt Happy Zuma, which I think that everyone can. There's something there for everyone, really.
Awesome.
West Ham are going to be dangerous on set pieces, Tommie. You've got Souček and Zuma, and you've got a few others, I think, there who are just dying to jump through a brick wall to head the ball. So
I saw someone this week on whoever runs the No Context Football Manager page on Twitter. They did like a season where they transferred Craig Dawson to PSG, and they got Craig Dawson to play up front, and he ended up scoring like 30 goals for PSG in the French league, and just like end up scoring like 30 goals or something like across all competitions, and they won the Champions League and stuff, which I mean in the first season of Football Manager is probably not that huge a deal given the stack squad they've got, but still it was pretty funny, I thought. All right, boys. A few other transfers that have gone through in the last couple of days. I already mentioned Will Hughes to Palace. Wesley from Aston Villa, he's left on loan. Doesn't look like that move has really paid off for Villa. Obviously, they've got Ings smashing in the goals at the moment with Watkins out injured as well, so not really much of a place for Wesley. Musa Sissoko has left Spurs and gone to Watford. Not sure if anyone caught the shitty launch video or announcement video that went along with that. It was pretty average. And also Willian, it looks like he's going to be finally leaving Arsenal. So he's on 240,000 a week, and he's basically going to be ripping up his contract and leaving on a free to go back to Brazil to play for Corinthians and probably play for about 70 or 30% of his old contract. So interesting times, I guess, ahead for Willian, who's basically just going to be on the beach now.
It was a strange move to Arsenal at the time. Like it reeked of Arsenal going, there's not much else there for us to get. Can we, like, he's leaving Chelsea. Chelsea are a good side. They've beaten us in the last few years. Maybe we'll get him. And yeah, it's not a massive surprise that it's gone a little bit south. And I know a lot of Arsenal fans asking for him to be, sold, like a few months after signing that contract. So, yeah.
Very close to being like Ozil areas. Like if he hadn't have left, they would have just had this really expensive player just doing nothing on the bench, or even not on the bench. All right, that's enough transfer chat, but still plenty that's been happening in the news this week. Obviously, we had the Champions League draw on Thursday night, Australian time, offered up like the normal group of death. Colby, one that you'd be very interested in was Group B, which is Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, Milan, and Porto, which is probably one of the tastiest groups of death in the last couple of years. And would you be pretty confident of progressing out of that group? No hassles, or still a little bit nervous? Or
I think Liverpool can get through the group, but Atleti in recent years have definitely had Liverpool's number. So whether or not we'll finish top is another story. But I mean, I'm hopeful that Liverpool will get through the group. But it's a very, very tasty group. There should be some good games in there.
Mentioned the group of death. There was also an alleged group of life as well, with Lille, Sevilla, RB Salzburg, and Wolfsburg also playing each other in Group G. Which I mean, let's face it, I don't think there's going to be many neutrals that are going to be watching games from that group. If I'll be honest,
that's a souped up Europa League group, isn't it?
Straight up just transplanted that from Europa,
in Group F, there's also going to be Manchester United playing Villarreal, so we're going to see two rematches of last year's Europa League final, which will be interesting to watch as well. And also I mentioned at the top as well about Sheriff Tiraspol. They were going to be making their debut in this year's Champions League. Team from Moldova, I think it was.
Yeah, correct, Tommy.
And I think everyone, when they saw this team, they went down a bit of a Wikipedia rabbit hole. Team that was like formed in the late 90s, are owned by this like just behemoth of Moldovan commerce, Sheriff, who seemed to sell everything from like fridges to other electronics products, and it seems like no one has heard of them outside of Moldova as well. But just a great logo and crest as well, with just the sheriff badge. Just it's fantastic. I can't wait for them to get smashed in the Champions League this year, though.
Yeah, I just hope they're letting fans in, Tommy, for some of these games. I'm looking forward to the European nights coming back to Moldova. Back where football belongs. Tough place to go.
And very, very briefly, we're going to be mentioning Europa League because obviously West Ham are in the Europa League this year. I'm rocking the Europa League patch on my West Ham jersey this year just to prove in 5 years' time that West Ham was in the Europa League when we were playing in the Championship or something. But Scotty, West Ham drew Genk, Dinamo Zagreb, and Rapid Vienna. Pretty happy with that draw?
I mean, I was looking at some of the ways the draw could go, and you can get some pretty tough teams out there. Like some of the groups could have been really tricky. I mean, that one again. This one is probably it's a classic Europa League group. You've got a big, long travel times, that, we're going to have the classic complaints from Moyes on a Sunday that the travel has been really bad when we come back. I'm really looking forward to all the cliches about it's a tough place to go, the travel to distance is doing it. That's it. Brilliant. And I mean, I'm just really excited to see West Ham in that competition. So
can't wait to get up early on a Thursday morning.
One above Spurs, so it's fine. Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be many people watching that Europa Conference League. I had a look through the groups that were drawn for that, and I went, there's like 3 teams that I've heard of out of all of these teams, and like I know a lot of sort of mid-tier, average, like European teams, and even I was like, who the bloody hell are they? All right, on to the Socceroos now. The Socceroos squad, as Colby mentioned at the top, has been named. 27 players were named in that squad, all foreign-based due to, I guess, the issues with quarantine and getting back into Australia. That's ahead of playing Vietnam and the People's Republic of China in those 2 World Cup qualifiers this fortnight. Interestingly, Matt Leckie announced that he'll be unavailable for selection and basically until international quarantine is finished. So I even wonder if maybe we'll be seeing Matt Leckie play for the Socceroos again, because I mean we don't know how long the all of the quarantine situation is going to be in Australia in the near future, which I guess is a little bit sad and a little bit concerning for the Socceroos. But at the same time, it's an exciting time too. We got Paul Izzo, Ryan Strain, and Callum Elder, who could make their Socceroos debuts in this round of qualifiers. Colby, how confident are you about our chances about getting 6 points from the 2 matches against China and Vietnam?
I'm pretty confident about getting 6 points against China and Vietnam. I think, Damo and I in particular are pretty cautiously pessimistic, I would say, about the Socceroos' overall chances of getting through the group as a whole, given that, we're no longer going to be able to play at home, which has typically been such a big advantage for us in qualifying, particularly in Asia, and with the knowledge that we'll be having to travel away as well. So we won't have the home advantage, but we'll still have the away disadvantage, and we'll be playing our home games at neutral venues. So yeah, next two matches should be good, just to ease the nerves a bit, though. Fingers crossed.
Fair enough. If nothing else, it's going to be great to watch the Socceroos again. But not only that, but they've got a new home as well. For the first time, we'll be watching football on Channel 10 or Paramount Plus or anything like that. Yeah, all right, you got me there. But we'll be. Channel 10 will be making their debut as the home of the Socceroos and football for the next couple of years. They even announced who's going to be doing the commentary and the punditry for them as well. Going to see Simon Hill, obviously. I think everyone expected that. He's going to be joined by Andy Harper, Bruce DeGitte, Georgie Yeoman-Dale, Mark Milligan, and Alex Brosk. Colby, like I said, Simon Hill is probably the big name there and the one that really everyone wanted to or was hoping that would be announced. But is there anyone there that you're really happy about or anyone that you think should be there and wasn't there?
I would have liked to see the likes of Teo Pellizzari and Ben Homer get a Guernsey. It'd be great to hear some more of their voices on mainstream games. I don't know. It seems like it's going to be Harper and Hill to do the comms, but yeah, and I don't know how many is usual, but I mean, maybe you could have had an alternate pair in Pellizzari and Homer as well. Would have been good to hear a bit more of them. But yeah, it's a strong lineup, and we've got rid of Brenton Speed, so that's the main thing.
I guess as far as those 2 names specifically that you mentioned go, the positive thing is that I don't think that team or all of those, I think was 7 names mentioned. I don't think they can do the A-League alone. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's still a few more names to be mentioned and maybe a little bit of a budget option like either of those 2, sort of someone a bit of unknown who might come with a bit of a cheaper wage might still yet to be announced as well. So I guess keep your eyes peeled in the lead up to the A-League in the next 6 to 8 weeks. Might be seeing a few more names dropped as well, so that's exciting. Boys, one final thing before we get onto the Prem. Old Firm derby tonight, Celtic and Rangers. Obviously, this is big news in Australia because Ange is there, and I feel like everyone has started following this league because Ange is there now. Both teams have already lost in the league so far this year, which means that the winner can only go as high as 4th, which is kind of weird, but it's also at the Australia friendly time slot of 9 p.m. on Sunday night, which is kind of cool. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are a few people that do tune into this one. Colby, do you think if Celtic win, will Ange be given the keys to Parkhead?
I mean, there's a big head of steam building behind Ange. Not only from the Australian contingent of fans, but the Scots seem to have gotten behind him as well. But look, I just hope both the teams have a good time.
Oh. Just hope everyone enjoys themselves. Yeah. Scotty, I'll bring you back in here. There's been plenty of talk about Ange and how well he's doing at Celtic, and there's already a few Premier League managers under threat. And I mean, with Ange doing well at Celtic, it's really sort of put him onto, I guess, a broader stage. And I guess I wanted to throw to you this question about whether or not you could see Ange maybe making the leap to the Premier League, like a mid-table team, or even a lower mid-table team, like a team that's struggling with relegation at the moment, like Arsenal, for example.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting because obviously, especially in the UK, the Scottish League is going to get more attention for those fans. So I mean, when he was announced, I know there were quite a few Celtic fans who weren't particularly impressed, that they thought they were going to go and get a bigger name. But he's a good manager. He has his style and he gets the players to work for him. So I think if he does well, especially if he does well in Europe, he could start attracting interest from Premier League sides. Especially, it's a different job, obviously. Managing Celtic, you have these games, the Old Firm derbies, and the European games are really where you're judged. And basically, if the squad is good enough, you'll carry yourself through the rest of them. So it's really, I'm interested to see. Gerrard's done better than I thought he would, or at least quicker than I thought he would at Rangers. So I think it should be a good match.
Fair enough. It's going to be really interesting, I think, to see where Ange ends up in like 12, 18, 24 months. So keep an eye out for that. All right, let's get on to, finally, some Premier League. All righty, first up, we'll be talking about the early game from last night. It involved City scoring 2 before Xhaka was sent off, given the red card for probably the most Xhaka tackle I think I've ever seen in my life. After the red card, City put on another 3 goals to make it 5 unanswered in total. Scotty, I'll throw to you first for this one. Have you been surprised by Arsenal's start to the season this year, or?
I mean, they've had a few tough fixtures to start with. So I mean, it's always, like, if you were to sort of just look at it as wins and losses and stuff, probably if you'd said 3 losses to start off with, maybe wouldn't be too big of a shock. But they were awful. I'm not saying that was because they went down to 10 men. They were just awful. And I thought
before the red card.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do fairly well. You know, I thought Arteta's style would really start to kick in. I didn't see a style like if you can look at those first 10, 20 minutes and tell me what Arsenal's plan was to actually do anything. Like, I know some teams are going to go to City and just like do absolutely nothing, park the bus, hope that their striker nabs something at the end and they walk away with something. Arsenal didn't. They didn't have that set up. They didn't have a kind of a plan, and I am surprised. So it looks like my predicted table of Arsenal finishing fairly high up is completely and utterly wrong now. Thanks for that. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned about like a lack of a plan, because I mean, like I looked at the starting 11 and I went, okay, I kind of get where what Arteta's trying to do, play deep, back 5, not letting a lot of space for them to get in behind you. So you're going to be quite deep. And then, all right, who are you playing up front? All right, Aubameyang, he's pretty quick. Like if you've got a single striker playing on the counter, yeah, okay, like that's possibly a recipe for success against City. But they just never seemed to get going, and like they never got out of first gear, which for a City team that like they sometimes start in 3rd or 4th gear, just really, really tough times, I think, for Arsenal. At A-League Villa on Twitter asks, could Arsenal be at risk of relegation? We're going to ask this every
nah.
I'm going to ask this every week until they finally start winning.
They had a shocking start to the season last year, and we're sort of in the bottom half of the table for up until Christmas or something, I think. So, they've got a couple more winnable games. The next two, everyone's talking about I think they've got Norwich and Burnley. So,
Yeah.
That critical games not only for the club but probably for Arteta as well. People are saying. So, yeah, they need to get going, but I don't know, probably not panic stations just yet.
All right. Well, look, I'll throw out maybe a bit more of a realistic scenario then, as you mentioned, and as Evan Stragan mentioned in the comments as well. They play Norwich at home next, and then Burnley away, and then of all matches to follow that, they've got a North London derby as well. The North London derby will be the last match that they've got in September. So, can you guys see Arteta making it to October? I mean, if he doesn't get 6 points or even 4 points from that Arsenal and Norwich and Burnley matches, then you puts in a poor performance in the North London derby, which, I mean, judging Spurs' current form, they look like pretty solid, surprisingly. So
Arsenal get up for the derby though. Like, I've seen really poor Arsenal teams play well in the derby. It's it's a different game, as people say, and it's not like a regular game. So and two winnable games against two teams who will be battling relegation. After playing two teams in Chelsea and Manchester City who will be contesting for the title. So I think, yeah, let's see where we're at the end of September. Two wins to get the wheels going, and then a big North London derby win would be pretty hard to sack Arteta.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that North London derby, that will be sort of the springboard for them sort of getting their season back on track after that. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. A couple other things, I guess, from this match that are sort of a little bit more City focused. The first one was Pep in his post-match interview. He said he was very, very defensive of Arteta, given that he was his boy at City. He said, trust the process. Arteta is beyond a good manager. He said he had 8 players injured. Not sure about that. And that he will undoubtedly do a good job at Arsenal. So, very clear that Arteta is Pep's boy. But I guess if he's probably also got one eye on the return fixture as well, where he wants to make sure that Arsenal are similarly terrible so that they can get another 3 points. Boys, one final thing, which was on City this time. Obviously, we mentioned before that Pep wanted to sign Harry Kane, but it looks like they could have a pretty decent striker that sort of maybe caught some people by surprise. How impressed were you guys with Ferran Torres?
It's a good player. Plays for City. I mean, when they don't sign bad players now, they've got the ability to pick out top talent, pay. People think over the market price maybe, but they get the players in that fit the system. And I think they've got a number of players that can play, if not a true number 9, inverted commas kind of thing. People that can play up front and do things. Pep was the first person to really bring in that false 9 system. I'm sure he's got something else up his sleeve if they don't sign someone. And Torres is a good player. And I mean, maybe not natural finisher the same way Kane is, but he'll get himself in the box enough. And on the end, they create so much. I think they had 25 shots against Arsenal. They're going to, if you let Man City have 25 shots, most of them are going to be in and around the area, and they're going to score a few.
High percentage shots, City, yeah.
And Bernd Leno doesn't really seem to be in particularly good form either. I mean, I think a lot of people wouldn't be surprised if Ramsdale gets a run in the league in the next few weeks as well. So
I should have kept Matty Ryan.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
Matty Ryan might have saved one of them.
But look, I don't see how a team with Callum Chambers in the starting lineup wins a game in the Premier League. Tommie, he's just like he's not Premier League quality. They've clearly got players missing, and then when you combine that with individual errors, the likes of Cedric and Xhaka just doing Xhaka things, like, yeah, come on, you can't expect to be winning, not least of which against the defending champions with that kind of a lineup. So.
I think it was. I think it might have been A-League Villa who I was chatting with this afternoon on Twitter, and basically, he threw out the question, which was like, what is the cause of Arsenal's decline? And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, oh, you could do like a podcast episode. And then in my head, I went, no, you could probably write a whole book on this because I mean, there's a lot of material, right? Like, there's been a lot of bad decisions, and it's it goes back, I think, as far back as like even just the acceptance of fourth place being good enough, sort of around like the 2010s or even earlier under Wenger. Where there was a real sort of shift at the club, and now it seemed like that slide in expectations just never was arrested, and it might be something I might sort of explore a little bit more and see if I can sort of pick out all of the bad decisions, or at least most of the bad decisions that Arsenal have made over the last couple of years. But anyway, boys, if there's one thing I wanted to add on the subject of Ferran Torres, I remember when he first got signed by City and everyone went, who? I think it was Sid Lowe, sort of Spanish football expert, does a lot of stuff for The Guardian and co. He called Ferran Torres a generational talent coming out of Spain, and that's quite high praise for a player, especially from someone who probably watched him a hell of a lot more than most people in England had or in Australia had at the time as well. So I'm really excited to see Ferran Torres get more minutes this year because he barely played last year, really. So exciting times, I guess, ahead for everyone who gets to watch Ferran Torres each week.
He's probably the biggest beneficiary of this Kane transfer not happening, Tommie, and especially in the same week that the Kane transfer falls through to get 2 goals and an assist. He's done himself quite a few favours, I think.
Here. All right, on to Liverpool and Chelsea. Havertz's opener was cancelled out by a very, very controversial penalty and red card. The Havertz goal I thought was quite good, but look, the Reece James red card, that obviously was a really pivotal moment in the match. I'll throw it to you both. Do you guys agree that it should have been a red card? I think everyone agrees it should have been a penalty, right? Yep. No,
it's
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Does everyone agree that
the goal, Tom? He's moved it with his arm. Nothing controversial about it.
Do you agree that it should have been a red card?
In the rules, it's a red card, but I don't think it should be because it's come off his thigh, it's bounced off his hand. Penalty is the thing. He hasn't. It's not like when Suarez saved the thing in the World Cup. It's not deliberate. It should. The rules are there. It is a red card. The referee made the right decision. I just don't agree with the rules.
Colby, you looked a little.
I think that's a good take. No. I do think that's a good take, Scotty. But I mean, he's moved his arm. I mean, whether he intentionally did that or not, like he's interfered with a goal scoring, like a goal. He's saved a goal off the line by moving his arm. I mean, that's the difference. It was that second action that really just put it beyond doubt. I mean, I could feel for him if it's just bounced off his hip or his torso or whatever, and just hit his arm. You still get the same result in some ways, but yeah, it's that second action of clearing it off the line. So it was pretty clear cut to me.
That makes it red card worthy for the two of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the rules say yeah.
Fair enough. Even Klopp seemed to think that sort of the red card unnecessarily changed the match for the worse in terms of sort of spectacle. And Scott, even we saw last week with Ayoze Perez getting sent off, it dramatically changed the game. And I think at the level that the Premier League is at, most teams now can dominate now of 11 versus 10 players, right? Even so, Klopp said that the red card spoiled the match. Well, they dominated possession and the chances in the second half after the red card, but they didn't dominate the scoreboard, though.
Yeah.
But the same process, most teams, especially the top half, have that ability to shift into defensive. Okay, everyone does defense versus attack drills, and that's what they treated it as. Chelsea just went, okay, well, we know we're a man down. This is going to be super hard for us as soon as we play expansive. So there's going to be no space, and we're going to kill all space. Salah won't be able to run onto the ball, nor can Mane. Now you've taken away everything Liverpool use, and it's why I think Chelsea are probably one of the favourites for me to win the title this year. They were, I think they probably had the edge in the first before the red card. I mean, it was much for muchness, but I think Chelsea had those factors. And then when it changed, they had that ability to shut the game down, which is just so key, especially over a long season.
Well, and you've got to give Tuchel so much credit for that as well. Like, what a manager. He just absolutely changed the game. Like, those Chelsea players, after that penalty goes in and Reece James has been sent off, there's like the ref issues 2 more yellow cards for, I don't know, Rudiger and somebody else.
I think
like,
Mendy got one as well.
It was all kicking off. Like that the Chelsea players' heads are completely gone, and Tuchel just gets them back in the sheds. Like, makes changes at halftime, gets on Silva, gets on Kovacic, takes off Kante, and you just think, oh, like, if they've taken off Kante, like, what are you doing?
They're cooked.
But it absolutely changed the game. And then, the players individually stood up, like the likes of Mendy made a lot of key saves, but Rudiger, Christensen and Thiago Silva all had a belting second half. But like that's Tuchel. Like, he sent them out there with just such a different mentality. I don't know what he said to them at half time, but like, you've got to give him so much credit for the way that Chelsea came out in the second half.
Well, compare that to Arteta and Arsenal. There were times where the Arsenal players looked at each other like, I thought he was yours, or is that my... Like, there was just complete abject...
Chelsea were just like a machine, yeah. No one needed to do anything. They all knew where they needed to be at all times.
Yeah, 100%. Chelsea show exactly. I mean, and Tuchel last year potentially a little bit over pragmatic at times, like really focusing on the shape and a little bit turgid, even with all the creative options he had. But this year they're going to be so tough to beat, both like defending against and now trying to break down.
Well, what they really needed was a flat track bully, someone like a Lukaku who could come in and just score 1 or 2 goals against like a sort of a little bit of mid-table or lower table fodder. And they sort of struggled to do that at times last year. But I mean, Lukaku is just going to monster a lot of teams, right? But look, ultimately, Big Rom, he wasn't able to monster Big Verge in a way that I guess he might have liked. What did you make of that matchup, Colby?
Yeah, I think Virgil marshalled him quite well. Matip as well, aside from 1 or 2 brain fades that is customary in Matip's game. Almost cost us a goal at one point when he decided to go for a stroll up the pitch. But I think like you said at the top, Tommy, they were sort of blunted by Virgil and Matip. So yeah, Lukaku didn't have that many opportunities, at least not as many as he has in his previous game or two.
Fair enough. You've already mentioned about how good Chelsea were defensively after the red card, but what did you make of, I guess, Liverpool's performance against those 10 men of Chelsea?
Well,
I've heard you again, Colby, because I think you're probably the best place. Keep going. Sorry,
Tommy. I think we had like 2 or 3 clear-cut chances to score. They didn't fall to the players you'd necessarily want on the end of those chances, like the likes of Henderson. And I mean, Harvey Elliott maybe could have done better, but it was with his weaker foot. Matip had one that went off the post. There was a few that were cleared off the line from Chelsea, and Mendy just had a blinder. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got chances to score and you don't take them, then that's big 2 points dropped.
And that was going to be my next question, actually. Did it feel like 1 point gained or 2 points dropped? Obviously, Chelsea are an exceptionally good team, but I guess playing against 10 men, you'd think, we should be able to get 3 points there. But
yeah, that's exactly right.
Fair enough. All right, so one final thing. You mentioned Ed Mendy had a great game, but it was actually Salah that took away the man of the match. Obviously, he scored for Liverpool, but I've got to say, I thought Mendy should have been the man of the match. I mean, he made 6 saves and he had a great game, and he looked every much of it. The player that was only, I think, in the last couple of weeks or the last 6 weeks, named the European Goalkeeper of the Year as well. So, robbed, basically. Alrighty, moving on though. So, goalless Crystal Palace travelled to the London Stadium to face top of the table West Ham. West Ham battered Palace in the first half, but before taking the lead through a really nicely worked Pablo Fornal's goal. Conor Gallagher equalised just before the hour mark, before another quality West Ham goal, this time from Michail Antonio. Before Conor Gallagher again equalised as Palace looked the better of the two sides in the second half. And I've got to say, Scotty, I actually thought Palace probably looked the more likely of the two teams to score, sort of as the game wore on in that second half. Do you agree with that?
I think the errors. I mean, there's this Palace side probably isn't that great in terms of he hasn't got abundance of talent to work with or anything like this. But he's trying to change the style after Hodgson and quite a few people left in the summer. So there's a lot to go through, and this was the first game where they really started to click a little bit. I still think they lack a plan. There was a couple of times I felt they were moving the ball around, and it all looked very controlled, very nice. And then you go, okay, they're gonna. Oh, I don't know what they're gonna do now because
what's this leading to?
There's not a player dropping into space that takes it on the half turn, releases a winger, and this kind of thing is not. It wasn't that genuine formation build up, but that I'm sure that'll come. They play well. I mean, Mikel Antonio is in brilliant form. He's still. You could play a brilliant game of what happens next if you took every clip of him receiving the ball in the box and then just freeze frame it just before he touches it. So much can happen. You have no idea. I mean, he scored his first West Ham goal, beating a defender, falling over, and then another defender booted it into his face and it looped over the goalkeeper. And he's now a record goal scorer in the Premier League. He is just a chaos machine in the box. He's so physical, he's so fast, but he just loves to shoot. He's brilliant.
Premier League Matt Simon. I don't know whether you follow the A-League too much, Scotty, but what you've just described is like this. Is like one of our favourite players in the A-League, Matt Simon, and
Colby,
I've never chaos machine.
I've never thought of in those terms before that he's the Premier League's Matt Simon, and I love it. That is a great.
Neither had I until I was just listening to Scotty's description, and I'm just thinking, who is this describing? It's Matty Simon.
But there are times when someone lays in a nice 10-yard ball into feet, and the touch is so bad that he doesn't get a chance to have a second touch. And then against Leicester, the second goal he scored, the ball comes in and he flicks it over the defender's head and gets there. I'm like, who is this? Like, what is it? What is going on? It's just...
It was like that touch. I thought, has he tried to do that, or was he actually trying to bring the ball down? And instead, it's just ballooned over the defender, and then he's just like, "Oh, hang on, I can get to that."
He's so fast and so physical. It's brilliant.
He's just a player that is obviously just on the crest of just a giant wave of confidence. It's just confidence just oozing out of his veins, and you tend to see when players are in that kind of zone, things just fall for them. Yeah, it'll bounce off your head and bounce to your feet and that kind of thing. They make their own luck. But boys, I wanted to get your thoughts. How long can he keep it up for? How long is this run of form going to last?
Well, look, Colby, I'll throw out a stat for you because right now he's not only top scorer in the league, but he's also second only to Pogba in assists as well. It shouldn't be real, but it is. Look, I was going to pose a question to the panel of how many goals do you guys think that Antonio can score? And I mean, at this point, it feels like the only thing that's stopping Antonio from scoring 20 league goals this year is his hamstrings. That's the only thing that at this point I think can really stop him from scoring 20 goals is just how many games he's going to end up playing, and whether or not he ends up playing in the Europa League as well is obviously going to be a huge test for those hamstrings. So
surely they got to ice him for Europa, Tommy. Come on.
Apparently he has been putting in a lot of extra work and sort of strengthening the hamstrings over the summer. So you never know. Maybe it's going to work out. What do you think, Scotty?
That's panicky. I mean, my biggest thing about West Ham, and one of the reasons I was happy about signing Zuma, is the stat was at the start of the season we had more registered goalkeepers than centre backs and strikers combined, and that's just it. And we signed 2 goalkeepers in the transfer window, and we've still only got Mikel Antonio.
Why?
And he's got the sprint, he's got the weakest hamstrings for a big man in the world. It's just please sign someone that can shoot. Because as much as I love Benrahma and Fornal's playing behind him, they need someone who's just gonna do what Antonio does. And if he goes, then we're really blunt, really blunt.
I think at this point, I think Moyes' plan is just play Bowen up front and convert another winger into a striker. But, I mean, even then, we don't have any midfielders either. So we've got such a third-best squad. Alrighty. There's not much more, I don't think, to pick apart from that game, unless either of you had anything else before we move on.
Just Conor Gallagher, though, Tommy. Shout out to him. The two goals, 2 in 2. Another one of the Chelsea loan army. I think he played like West Brom last season. He's been to, I don't know, Swansea and a couple of other clubs on loan. He look pumped to get that equaliser, to get the point for Palace. Good to see the Chelsea loan army out there doing bits.
It's like in 2 years' time, you know that Palace are going to get another young Chelsea midfielder who's not really good enough for Chelsea, but still can do a job. But like at Palace, after it was at Loftus-Cheek was there at Palace a couple of years ago, and now they've got Gallagher, and I mean I don't know who next is sort of coming off the Chelsea conveyor belt, but I don't know, maybe just watch Vitesse in the Europa League and you get a glimpse into who's coming next from Chelsea to Palace in 2 years' time. All right, another couple of matches that were played last night. Big night of football, 7 games that were played in the Premier League. 2 unbeaten teams, Brighton and Everton, faced off at the Amex. Damari Gray, a.k.a. the Premier League Bruce Kamau.
Timmy boy.
Opened the scoring before Calvert-Lewin secured the points from the penalty spot to continue Rafa and Everton's good start to the season. Norwich and Leicester, they played off as well. Norwich huffed and puffed against Leicester, but ultimately Jamie Vardy proved the difference, scoring and also getting an assist for Mark Albrighton to get the winner. Meanwhile, that one finished 2-1 for Leicester. Aston Villa played promoted Brentford, who continued their good start to the season. Ivan Toney getting off the mark there, which means that he's now scored in League 2, League 1, the Championship and the Premier League, which is just a pretty bonkers stat for anyone playing along at home. And obviously, Colby, your boy, I think, Emi Buendia, he got off the mark as well. So
good little goal too.
I was just going to say, I think at this point, Villa have scored 3 or 4 goals, and I think everyone has been an absolute banger. If Villa keep this up, I mean, I'm just looking forward to it. I think the next thing that's going to come from that playbook is John McGinn just scoring an absolute screamer, like off the crossbar and down, sort of Tony Yeboah areas in the next couple of weeks. I think it's on the cards. And finally, Newcastle, they snatched a draw from the jaws of victory as a goal each from Southampton and Newcastle played out a 2-2 draw. Scotty, I know you threw in the run sheet about Steve Bruce and Newcastle in this one. Tell us what you thought about Newcastle. A bit disorganised at the moment, you thought?
Yeah, I was watching this match and I was talking out loud. My wife was asking questions about what I was talking about, really. And I said, if you're like trying to summarize Southampton, I feel sorry because they're quite a well-run club. They have all the ideas in place, but they just don't seem to have the players all at the right time. And they're quite well organised, but they just seem to lack that little bit at the end. Newcastle struck me as that five-a-side team. It's different each week because the guy just knows a few players and he knows a few really good players. And so Bruce has just been on the phone. He's got Wilson, he's got Sam Maximin, and the rest of them have no idea how to play together. Their left back was just gone. For most of the first half, Southampton were just, there's space on the right hand side. What's going on here?
It wasn't Matt Ritchie, was it? Damo's going to be blowing up in the comments if you're.
He's a favourite on this pod, so just be careful when you're talking about more than a game's Matt Ritchie. Wonderful effort.
but it was just. I don't know if it was the left back's fault because there was nothing in front of him, so the left back was folding in and just leaving. There's so much space, so there's just no organisation. They looked like a pre-season team. They looked like a team that hadn't had their pre-season yet, and we're still working out things. But Wilson and Maxim will probably keep them up because they are just wild cards. I mean, Maxim can go past players like nobody's business, and Wilson is a top finisher. He doesn't have to have that much, and he will get goals. Yep. So
the real Sunday League areas, like they're all still introducing each other to each other in April. I'm Callum Wilson. Not you.
But St. Maxim is. They were talking about him at the end of last season, or maybe last January, about potentially like Arsenal being interested in this kind of thing. And I don't know if he's going to go to that kind of club and do the things he does because he just thrives off being the big fish. in like on the ball, and he kind of has that. Like Newcastle fans will love him if he takes it past a few players every game, and but it doesn't. Yeah, but he won't. He does, half the time he will just spank it out for like not much, or just pass it nowhere, or just run into a cul-de-sac. He hasn't got much game craft. He's brilliant on the ball, though. He's great fun to watch.
Get that man on Neighbours. I reckon he'd go well on a cul-de-sac. All right, boys. Still 3 games to be played this game week. I'll get a couple of score predictions from either of you. First one up is Burnley. They're hosting Leeds United. These teams have got 1 point between the two of them from their first 2 matches. Leeds won both matches last year, 4-0 and 1-0 respectively. Boys, what's your take on this one? Give us a score prediction, Colby.
3-0 to Leeds for me. I think Leeds are going to click back into gear, and you know, I've said it already, but I just think this is Burnley's year that they don't avoid that relegation.
I did say that Burnley, I think, are going to be breaking their transfer record, which is probably only like 3 million, but I think they're signing. Is it Cornet from or something like that from Lyon from memory?
Yeah. I don't know. Sean Dyke's gonna have to break out like a French to English translation book or something, because he has got no idea what anything he's got in Europe. He is like, no, I don't like it. I want English people, and they've gone. The person you've asked for is not English, and he's kind of had vomited in the toilet a few times, and then come back and go, fine, sign him. I just need someone else in, because he is. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to get on. Burnley
just stand on the 6-yard box.
I mean, language barriers aside, trying to understand Sean Dyke at the best of times is a tough one. But
Scotty, can you say anything other than a Leeds victory?
No, I think the way Leeds play be too high tempo for Burnley, and as long as Leeds match up to them at set pieces properly, then they should be fine.
Fair enough. All right, Spurs have got the chance to go clear at top of the table if they beat Watford. Spurs are the only team with a 100% record so far, and can make it 3 wins from 3 if they do get the victory here. Spurs are yet to concede. They've had 2 1-0 wins, so pretty tight at the back, which I think has surprised some people so far. Meanwhile, Watford have conceded twice in both of their matches so far this season, in the 3-2 win against Villa and the 2-0 loss against Brighton. What's your tip for this one, Scotty?
I think it's going to be probably 2-0 Spurs. I think they're a nice organised side. Just too strong for Watford.
Nuno seems to have them humming pretty well already, doesn't he?
Good manager.
Colby?
Yeah, hard to disagree with that. I don't see anything other than a sort of 2-0-ish scoreline to Spurs. You know, again, it'll sort of. It won't do Watford justice, because I think they have been in all of these games. The scoreline doesn't really show it, but I think they've had pretty strong showings in each of their outings so far, and it'll happen for them eventually. They are my boys, each and every one of them. But I don't think they'll get the result this time around.
Fair enough. And finally, we're going to be possibly seeing Jadon Sancho and Rafa Varane make their starting debuts for Manchester United. Ronaldo is unlikely to play, though. I mean, he hasn't trained with the squad. So, and I think it was only like 24 hours that he was confirmed he was actually playing for them this season. So,
doesn't have a squad number yet, Tommy. How's he going to play?
Meanwhile, since Wolves have returned to the Premier League 3 years ago, they've won 1, drawn 3, and lost 2 against Manchester United. So not a terrible record, I guess, for a team that's only just returned to the Premier League in the last couple of years. Meanwhile, Wolves are the only team yet to score a goal this year in the Premier League. So, sorry, I lie. I think Arsenal haven't either. Yep. So I lie. There are 2 teams that haven't scored this year. Wolves is one of them. Boys, do you see anything other than a Manchester United victory here, or do you think Bruno Lage could sort of go large on Man United? Scotty?
I was just trying to think about the other results they've had, but I think they've lost to Leicester and Spurs. So I mean, it's hard to really judge what Wolves have really got in the tank there. So I think they'll lose to United. I think United have too much for them, but Wolves should be okay this season. I'm yet to see what they're really going to do under the new manager.
As Damo points out in the comments here, he said we said last week that we could see nothing only than a Manchester United victory. And in fact, I think I said I wouldn't be surprised if Manchester United put up a cricket score against Southampton. So I don't know. Like, this is a tricky one for me. Sorry, Colby, but I think last year we probably all would have been pretty confident in saying that Wolves would have been a pretty decent shout at getting some sort of a result here, but with Bruno Lage, you just don't really know what Wolves are going to look like when they sort of finally turn a corner. Colby, do you think it's going to be this week?
I don't think it's going to be this week, Tommie. I think Manchester United will be too strong for them. I think they shat the bed against Southampton by not managing to come out with 3 points there. And I guess, you can only blame yourselves there, but I think they will be too strong for Wolves. They've had some good away form in last season, which we've spoken about. And yeah, they're building up a bit of a head of steam too. So yeah, they'll get up. Fair
enough. All right, and that rounds things off for this week on the pod. Look, thanks everyone for joining along for the chat. I hope you've enjoyed it all. Next week, obviously, we'll be talking a little bit of Socceroos, as they will have already played at least one of their matches. And we'll also be giving away our first FPL or MTAG FPL prize for the season. So looking forward to joining in with you all again then. But in the meantime, enjoy the football.